Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the LCK Summer Promotion, and already the upsets have begun. Ever8 winners taking down MVP in game number 1 with some beautiful coordinated play, especially in the team fights.
This team is so good for a team that in many ways should not have been here in this tournament. Peaked on 8.6, and Atlas, again, before 8.6, they were 5-9. They were 5th place in Challenger. With 8.6, they won the playoffs. They may very well get promoted, peaking at the right time with great preparation on what is a bit of a watershed patch. 8.6 does not really resemble the meta we were seeing in recent months.
Yeah, they certainly have figured it out, and the story is being told for you as far as what MVP were up to. It was all Max trying to do what he can.
What did I say, Atlas? I said most damage Vel'Koz. We got most damage Vel'Koz. That's what he was all about. But sadly, it was macro. It was smart play around engages by Ever8. It looks brainless. Zac jumps in, presses his button, someone dies. That was not what the comp was actually engineered to do, because the enemy MVP team answered Zac as a sole threat easily. They could not answer the Weaver's Wall, the great angles from the Ornn, and in the end, a big victory for Ever8. Don't know if there's going to be any substitutions. I'd imagine not, but MVP do not want to play again in the second best of 3, the final match of the night.
Yeah, well, MVP now. Coaches have entered the booth. They are going to be red side once again by the looks of things. It's Ever8. Just like the blue side. Getting their choice of side selection here for game number 2. Sion once again going to be the ban, and we'll see whether we're just going to run it back as far as the bans are concerned.
Ever8 actually do seem to have a logic different to other teams. They have dynamic side selection with Ever8 choosing in game number 2. Surprised they choose blue is the fact that right now, LCK teams speaking to players around the league in my preparation for the final heavily favor red side, because right now, when it comes to must early picks, there aren't really many outside of maybe Swain when it comes to flex picks, and when it comes to counter picks, there are numerous. Vayne into Kai'Sa, big counter pick, might see it this game. We have many other choices that can be engineered. Teams feel like on blue side, you have to play Karma or Sion mid and be super safe because they're afraid of going to Leah, getting Yasuo counterpicked, of seeing other crazy stuff. And that means that it's a surprise to see Ever8 go blue, but it worked in game 1. Why not try it again?
Well, the Morgana is going to be the change-up here for MVP as we ran back all of the bans for the first 3, and then Rakan is going to be the answer here. It's because the Black Shield's so fantastic, it would open up a Rakan pick, and Max certainly very good on the champion.
And they hope they're getting a twofer. They're hoping that Kai'Sa will not be selected because Morgana Kai'Sa is where a lot of her power is truly unlocked. We'll wait and see. They have to go into a Kai'Sa ban that would leave open one of those big picks for Sun, who usually has the Zoe taken away as well. Swain also is actually going to go unbanned. Some teams have shown a great ability to play around Swain. We've seen some great Taliyah play and playing around the Swain's 5v5 power. But in this particular case, we will not see Swain looked over. ADD, a top lane Swain player. Ian playing in the solo queue. Swain first picked by Ever8.
Yeah, and you remember we were talking about the fact that Sun often gets triple banned. Well, Swain was part of that list of champions that certainly have been taken away from him. The Zoe as well was another option, but now see whether it's going to be Wu Fei picking that one up or whether Sun is going to be taking it into the mid lane. Beyond, back to an old favorite as the Sejuani is locked in. MVP wanted to go back for comfort in what could be the last game of this series. Caitlyn going to be locked in, and now what does Hybrid do? Does he just run it back with the Kai'Sa? Could potentially be an option.
Thinking about later in the draft, not focusing on this round, I'm thinking about how MVP don't get flex picked by the Swain, because they're desperate to get a good matchup in the mid lane and not allow Sun to just roll in a Taliyah or something later without getting counterpicked. To me, the only way to do that is to go Karma again, Karma Caitlyn on the red side. We'll wait and see if that happens. On blue side, they've lost the Morgana. Tahm Kench may be able to disengage, but doesn't have an ability to actually start up the Killer Instinct. Doesn't have the hard CC that Morgana has with the Dark Binding. So it is going to be still a defensive option. It's also going to be the Kai'Sa once more.
Yeah, and we'll see whether this is going to be Ever8 once again, having one of these compositions that can get around the map very, very easily, because the Swain, notoriously difficult to move him elsewhere, but if the Tahm Kench is on top of him, then you can use the Abyssal Voyage and then just rely on Killer Instinct to get Hybrid into the fights as well. Already is a 3-man unit, very, very mobile. Shen is going to be the first ban after the Ornn is locked in for ADD. So he does get his hands onto one of these amazing CC-heavy tanks on the top side of the map where ADD does tend to shine and picks it away from Wu Fei as well. So I do love the Ornn lock-in.
And it is an expected Swain mid lane just because it is a known pick for Sun. You also have the situation where if you're Wu Fei, you're like, I don't really want to be Swain with a banner of Command Ornn in my lane. So it's possible, but not necessarily something he's going to want to opt into. Going to see the Vel'Koz ban straight up against the side of MVP. That's one of the flex picks they would have considered in the next round as a support mid lane flex pick, which is what they're going to be looking for with their drafts. I wonder if we'll see a Karma ban as well, even though they were able to beat the Karma. Wait and see what Ever8 decide. The Talia banned away from Sun. He still has the Zoe, but with so many tanks on the side of MVP, the Zoe priority to me doesn't jump off the page.
Yeah. Vel'Koz ban as well does mean that Ever8 could more comfortably go to something like
Azir.
an Azir as well, yeah. And I do like Azir Swain as that combination. Control zone, use the wall to push them back into the Demonic Ascension.
I really love the Karma ban. Now they do have to show their straps a lot more MVP. I think Ever8 is actually operating on big ban level I wasn't anticipating. It means we will get the support pick, and seems like Max going melee for once. Going to be jumping onto the Braum.
Very, very standard. Pretty powerful bottom lane here for MVP, and Max will have a lot of engage options as well with that Glacial Fissure. Gives them level 1 choices as well. Ever8 will not be able to go for their aggressive level 1 like they moved in for. No Morgana for the Dark Binding, and up against a Braum means that is a dangerous proposition. Singed is going to be locked in though. So Wu Fei is going to jump up onto him to start this one off. Could be a rough time actually for ADD. Could potentially get abused by the Poisonous Man on the top side.
First Singed we've seen in a long time. And look
here
at this.
we go.
The Xin Zhao is open. The Payton to Piv and Kuma locked in, baby.
What is this, Papa Smithy? We are getting spoiled.
And we see Beyond's face. He's like, damn it, I don't want to have to jungle against the Xin Zhao. We've all played solo queue. The Xin Zhao gets ahead. It's a bad time. And this Xin Zhao is Kuma's absolute trademark. Cool to see it on this stage. Ever8 winners having fun. We spoke about the Zoe for Sun, a trademark for him. Ian also early in the season got some value out of the pick. Not the squishiest lineup ever, not the tankiest. They will be going the way of the Zoeans anyway.
Yeah, it is going to be the Zoe locked in there for Ian. Did have some success on it in the season. I think 5 times was the amount that he picked that one up. MVP not really being able to pick up any wins when Zoe was super strong though.
If there is mid lane priority for the Swain in this game, Zoe and Sejuani are going to have a nightmare. Xin Zhao is so strong 2v2 if his mid laner gets going. He also has some great interactions with the Swain passive as well. Never move, or just the Q being fully charged up into death. Very possible. It's going to be all about the mid lane for me, Atlas. 2v2 between the two teams.
Yeah, and the thing that's fantastic as well is it's all about the mid lane, yes, but they've got pushing lanes absolutely everywhere for Ever8, meaning that Kuma's going to have so much space in the jungle. He's going to be able to get right on top of Beyond, who's playing the tanky Sejuani. She's not awful in the early game, but she's certainly no powerhouse. This could be a real problem at the start of the game for MVP.
Now, Ornn will not roll over and die compared to the Singed, and how the laning phase goes often interacted by jungles, and even just where you freeze the lane, because you would obviously love
That's
to
true.
proxy.
Top is a little bit more of a
Making that
difficult
happen
one.
is a little bit trickier, but you're right. Situationally can happen. Playing has some good options against the Zoe after the wave clear nerfs have become pretty severe, so lane control not a guarantee for the Zoe. Bot lane, though, MVP going to be happy. They've got the Caitlyn.
Yeah, they should be able to get that
So
one
they should
working.
feel good there, but this is a spicy one, and Ever8 could be jumping into 2 days' time and jumping into a best-of-5 with a win.
Yeah, and 2-0 as well could be the option here for Ever8 winners. It's an exciting composition. MVP so much to play for to try and keep their hopes alive in this best-of-3. Let's hit the rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Of course, the MVP fans out in force. And we got to see the fact that Xin Zhao's weird walking animation when he goes too fast is still weird. Absolutely brilliant.
Xin Zhao and Sivir have some very interesting walking problems, but at the start of the day, I looked at you, Atlas, and when we were preparing for this event, and I said, Vayne and Xin Zhao, very likely for this tournament. We don't see the Vayne into Kai'Sa just yet. Caitlyn preferred for the safety and a staple for Pilot. We do see the Xin Zhao Kuma has made his name on this team, blind picking Xin Zhao, taking it into most matchups. Takes into the Sejuani matchup, and 7-2 is the Sejuani from Beyond before today. But when you look at Kuma, he's played only a handful of games for the team. By far his most played, 3-1 Xin Zhao. If Xin Zhao hits big, they often win in the early game because the power of this pick, if he can get going, is massive.
Yeah, interesting that both of these junglers are going to be starting blue side of their maps as well. So we did see that it was the bottom lane duo rushing to that lane to try and get priority. This time around, not going to be the same story. Plasma almost actually taking down the red buff. That would have been pretty awful for Kuma, but that's okay.
If you want to know about the Xin Zhao build, it's Cinderhawk into... I'm just kidding. It's full damage, Atlas. He goes for Warrior into Trinity Force. He sometimes gets Static Shiv third. This guy loves to ball on his builds. And, you know, for a young jungler, he is very headstrong, and he believes in his Xin Zhao.
Absolutely brilliant. We'll see what he's going to be able to get done early on in this. Already, Raptor Camp has been taken down. We'll see whether it's going to be a full clear, but it looks like the Gromp and Blue will be taken down next, so the puppy's going to be ignored just for a second. Does he gank early is the question for me.
Yes.
Pub Smithy, because I just want to see him spearing some people in some lanes. That's
Against
what I want.
our only LCK Xin Zhao's. Beyond had an awful time on the Xin Zhao.
The worst Xin Zhao time.
This one has gone for the press the attack, so a bit more team utility and also damage in the early game compared to the phase rush, the other big pick. And again, I watched every game that Kuma played because most of them he played were in the Challengers playoffs. This guy can get 10 ganks off in the early game in terms of kill involvements, so he is certainly active, and already the red buff invade looks pretty tasty for him.
Yep, he's going to be spotted on a ward though as Beyond. He's down to about half health actually. Oh God, almost misses it. The spike comes in from the W. Oh, that was almost complete and utter disaster. And if I was Kuma, I probably would have flashed for that audacious charge. Almost worth.
Big gameplay about the Xin Zhao, because, you know, he's actually been a champion that has frequently been nerfed for solo queue only when not being played in competitive, just because very binary champion, especially before the introduction of the Wind Becomes Lightning, the W that we will call the stab, basically, because the name's too long.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I decided to go with W.
But no skill shots apart from that ability, so that's why he's often been nerfed. Seeing the runes on your screen, full damage, goes for the Celerity Water Walking, which is now basically standard on every AD jungler.
Every jungler,
and honestly, Elise and Gragas, most people will pick it up as well. W max is what we expect here. It gives him a bit of AoE clear. But yeah, it's often been nerfed because very binary. Gets ahead, presses all the buttons, don't really have to think about when you press them and people die. It's not quite that level anymore, but the really big takeaway is wins every 2v2 and is reliable. If he can get in without using his E...
There's the pullback. Gets the Vision of Empire down as well for some damage, but Sleepy Trouble Bubble onto Sun, and now Kuma, he's skipping over. He wants to try and catch in before the portal jump is available, and the flash has to be used to get out of the way of the big Xin.
So we talk so much about mid-priority, Atlas. It's one of our big buzzwords as color casters. We should define it once again, because we'll talk about it a lot today. Mid-priority means, or what mid-priority looks like, we'll talk about what it means. What it looks like usually is control around mid lane, a control ward on the left and right side. Your mid laner can leave the lane and the enemy's like, I don't know where he is, I can't face check, the jungler might be there. Mid lane priority in this game looking like control wards on both sides and Sejuani or Zoe walking into a Xin Zhao, that will mean death. If you can start with Q and keep your E for when the enemy flashes as the Xin Zhao, people will die. So getting mid lane priority, allowing the Xin Zhao to be the one that's being face-checked rather than being the one who goes in and can't exit, the classic thing with Xin Zhao, who's a one-way champion. Yeah. That's going to be the big thing for Ever8 to try to make happen.
Yeah, face-checking Xin Zhao, I think everyone's done it in solo queue at least once, and after that, you never want to do it ever again. It's the worst time.
And you feel mid lane priority all the time in solo queue, you just don't define it because mid lane priority is your mid laner dying twice, say, I need a gank, and you look at the lane and you're like, where are the wards? Where are the control wards? Where's any information? I don't have it.
Yeah.
And then when you go in and die, that means you don't have mid lane priority.
Yeah, and the mid lane priority as well is that you're farming comfortably in the mid lane and he's not, the other guy's not there, and he's killing your bottom lane as well. And that means that your enemy team has the mid lane priority. Well, continues to farm things out. It's actually falling behind as far as the camps are concerned, but has got a flash already.
Very proactive jungler, does go red smite for that extra combat. Nice little trade there, as it was a free exhaust.
Yep. Zoe, just Zoe things.
Just summoner spells. Can't teleport anymore, no free teleports.
Thank goodness for that. Spell Thief. That was the nerf that we really needed. As Kuma's going to spot where Beyond is, but he's just going to be clearing out some vision. Control wards being lost left, right, and center here for Ever8 winners.
He could have used any other skin, but he picked this one on purpose. The Spectator Bug.
Yep.
Endlessly amusing. So
It
we'll see
happens with a lot of the skins, though, Papa. I mean, I don't think it's his fault for choosing the skin. It's just Sin.
And
He's
something
a
that
bit
really
silly.
only happens
Oh,
with...
Demonic Ascension actually in the mid lane. Remember,
Go for
there's
it.
no flash.
Oh.
And he wants to... Oh, actually, he picked one up with the Spell Thief. So lucky is Kuma. He's going to get stunned. Trouble Bubble comes down, trying to get extra damage in there. But Ian, he can't turn around and get on top. Good knock-up comes in as Ian pops over at the opportune time and grabs the kill.
Ash was able to pick up the flash from Sun. That's why he didn't go out, and he was able to make it all happen. Here comes the mid lane.
Yeah, ADD comes down with the ultimate. Isn't able to get too much done as Vision of Empire. Good positioning there from Sun, but Ian does manage to move out of the way.
That was the epitome of just Zoe things. You were mentioning already the exhaust out of nowhere. The flash pickup was massive, and then Kuma went in. Kuma couldn't go out, didn't have any assistance from his mid laner as Swain can't roam that far off the screen. Big stuff for MVP to find a lead, even though Wu Fei finally has got his dirty farm on.
Yep, he's doing some Singe things. The Dank Seal's coming in as well. Going to get a lot of healing back from that Corrupting Potion. It's giving him a bunch of money. And we'll see whether the build is going to continue down this dirty route, whether he's going to go for something else. Ever8 winners on the bottom side actually doing fine as far as farm. Last game it was all about Pilot in the early game, heading up about 30 CS against Hybrid.
So Wu Fei with the double Dank Seal going on, the Dank Seal build we always talk about. Does feel strong enough finally to start the proxy, and ADD roamed, but this is what I'm talking about. You have very good on-command trading, very good on-command wave clear. It is very hard to set up a chance to go behind the turret, which is what Wu Fei wants to do to get that priority you mentioned, because if he's behind the enemy turret, then the Ornn is at the turret, and that gives a lot of space for Xin Zhao to go for those invades.
Yeah, a lot of extra information as well, because we saw ADD moving down into the mid lane, almost was able to help grab a kill. Overly aggressive from Sun, though, underneath the turret against Ian, and really good play from the mid laner of MVP, who we were pretty harsh on at the beginning of the season when MVP were in their losing streak, but he was one of the reasons why MVP were looking better as we moved further into spring.
Even on champions that he was, 1-4 on or 0-5 on, he was having an elevated level of performance. His Rise, for example, a lot better as the season went on. So very nice thinking there. Does get them a nice spot. Kai'Sa going to continue going down the Rage Blade line. Seems like this is almost codified as the new build now, but given the flexibilities, we're never 100% sure. With the Kai'Sa, does seem like E-Evolve, the Supercharger Evolve, and going invisible. Ever since Prey has done it, seems to be the priority for every Kai'Sa we see.
Yep, getting that skirmishing happening. ADD decides not to go for the knock-up onto Wu Fei, who's still very, very squishy. Now does have the Merc Tread, so not going to be CC'd for too long. Isn't as scared of Beyond, is the Singed on the top side. The split push is going to get more and more frustrating as the game goes on, though.
So what does Singe do, is a question you might ask, because we know about the dirty farming, we know about running and trying to flip people. The mechanic that's still super underrated by everyone is the grounding effect, the W.
Yeah.
And remember, the grounding effect versus Caitlyn and Zoe could be oh so important to both set up damage and keep those champions in the demonic ascension when the team fights start.
And how does Portal Jump still ports you back no matter what, right? Even if you're on...
Yes. I believe you can't use the first part, but it doesn't deny the return.
Yeah.
I must admit, we don't see too much Singe versus Zoe in either my solo queue games or at the highest level, but that is my understanding of the interaction.
Yeah, I have seen some of the Cassiopeia versus Zoe, but I don't quite remember how the interaction actually works. So I apologize, guys. I should go into the practice tool and figure it out.
Grounding is so overpowered as a mechanic when you think about it, but it's so infrequently used. Only 2 champions in the game that have it, in the Cassiopeia and the Singe, and you never see Singe, so I was really reminded of it back at Worlds when C9 had the Singed Orianna happening, where you were stuck on that shockwave a lot more often than you would usually.
Yeah, you watch that hula hoop happen, and there are no options apart from your flash to get yourself out.
Well, you can't flash.
Oh, sorry, there's no options at all to get yourself out of the way. Oh, ultimate is going to come down onto Kuro, though, but Sun, he's right here. Sorry, Kuma. Kuro's not playing in this game. He just finished losing a final recently.
Feels bad, man. Low blow. Wave pick getting a bit better. The mid lane priority not as massive as Kuma's flash spin down, and that will slow down Xin from doing his best Mulan impression.
Yep. He'd actually really love the use of the Vision of Empire there, where Ian, if he wanted to get a paddle star onto Sun after the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, he had no option but to stand in it. Pretty cute. As Wufei, he's fighting with ADD, but seems like ADD
time for the
isn't too
Zin.
worried. Yeah, Kuma's going to come up, and yeah, now ADD has to get that fat flash over the wall, does so. That is certainly value here for Wufei.
Beyond trying to answer the play on the bottom side of the map. They have a lot of pressure as Kai'Sa is using her time to kill the Krugs. Remember, with the Q, you can kill the little Krugs a lot faster than most of the AD carries that try to pick up Krugs. So a lot more Krug takes in the LCK final than we had in many, many moons. So will be an Ocean Drake, not the biggest sacrifice from Ever8, but not the big early game control lead they had in game number 1.
Yeah, definitely a good option early though, especially against a lot of potential harassment coming in from Wufei on the top side. ADD going to be pretty happy not to have to worry about his health bar as much. Abyssal Mask has come in now. ADD will just continue shoving things out towards the top side. He has a lead of about 5 CS, but it's because Wufei has been standing in a mini wave, and just sometimes you don't manage to pick up what you want. Lots of pings for Ever8, the bottom side of the jungle for MVP. Too much going on there as Ian's just using summoner spells whenever he feels like it.
Let's talk about expectations as the game moves forward. But Ever8 winners, even though it's Xin Zhao, you might not think it from first look, but you really like their 5v5 here. It's not that MVP can't 5v5, it's that honestly Zoe is very binary to me. If you're thinking about a champion to compare herself to when it comes to where she spikes, she's kind of a Skarner in many, many ways. If you run Skarner and Zoe, if you get a good start, you win. If you get a bad start, you lose. Kind of what happens with those champions. And 5v5 team fights with the zoning of the Demon Flare are going to be massive as bot lane Max.
Yeah, Max in a whole host of trouble. He gets eaten actually by Lucifer, but he's the one that's going to get taken down. In goes Hybrid, the Killer Instinct. Once again, a bit of a problem as the Kai'Sa's going to fall. Double kill for Beyond and a big double knock-up for ADD as Kuma. He's running away for the hills. Demonic Ascension there for Sun, but he's using it to try and get away, and the Sleepy Trouble Bubble's going to say no to that one. He's still above half health, and he's just staying alive for so long. As Kuma comes in, he wants to find Ian, and he does so. Wants to now get away, uses the flash to do so. Beyond can't do much. Wufei on the bottom side of the map wants to kill Max, but Pilot is going to stun and destroy him. Peacemaker comes in, and MVP, they've struck back in game 2.
So much happens around the map. It is MVP trading up. An answering kill from Kumo is opportunistic on the Xin Zhao, and able to take down the Zoe. But Singed did Singed things, thought he was stronger than he was. Classic Singed problem. We're going to watch the entire play. Look at how much damage the Unbreakable gets from Max. He's able to set this all up by eating the damage forever, and this is what can happen. You can bait yourself. Bang did this on the first professional game we saw of Kai'Sa. Just a bit of a Lee Syndrome moment. The Kai'Sa Syndrome, we'll call it. Gets in the backline, the AD carry is dead. This could have been many more kills for MVP, but ends up a 1-for-1 trade after the highlight clip roll.
Yeah. So, 4-1 now. Advantage certainly in favor of MVP, but the money is just straight up not there as yet. It's so funny. It's so. Have you seen any of those meme videos, like the World of Warcraft? I'm like playing World of Warcraft with my best friends videos. Oh, it's exactly that. It's so good.
Can we get out? Oh, he just has enough ability
to. Comes in. Yeah, he does manage to get the pop back as he goes in. Okay, that's exciting. And he is going to die, most certainly, as Lucifer, he's going to eat that grey health and his AD carry and try and get out, but still, taking so many autos from Pilot, good slow comes in to stop him from being able to follow up, but now the Catfish has to go home.
Looked out of context, but what I believe happened there was the Abyssal Voyage was interrupted by Pilot and Max on the bot side. That's why the re-engage happened to try to fight with the Abyssal Voyage. Doesn't happen. Nice interrupt. Ever8 trying to make these set pieces work, but this game, they're being well scouted and shut down by MVP, who are not looking to roll over, who do not want to go down in this best of 3.
We'll still have to play the final game. It'll be very exciting because we know how much pressure MVP are feeling. Hybrid here with the Acathian Rain just clearing out the minion wave, but 10 CS is not the kind of lead that Pilot had in game number 1, and now with a whole lot more lane control on the Caitlyn, certainly need to give props to Hybrid for how he's playing this one out, despite the fact that he fell down pretty quickly.
Again, talking about where the game will go, despite there being a Xin Zhao, the power of the W, the power of the goo, the power of the grounding is what I'm getting to in a team fight. I know, exactly. It's a weird and wonderful world. Keeping people in position for the Demon Flare and for Swain to zone, and then how much damage a 4-to-5 item Kai'Sa does, I really do think that Ever8 have a superior team fight comp, despite there being pieces that look out of place in terms of what you expect out of the 5. Whereas for MVP, they're all about playing with momentum. They have it. The Zoe does have a bit of a paddock to roam to. I think they really need to be on point at pushing up their vision, getting those picks with the trouble bubble. Otherwise, the trouble will be backloaded from the side of Ever8.
Yeah, now MVP actually struggling to take down this outer turret. Was beyond showing his face down here to try and help out. Merc Treads is the only thing that Kuma has added to his item build, but
He
will
can't
actually
afford a
help
Trinity
against
Force
Ian. Yeah, no, can't quite. Or maybe if he goes back now. Redemption are going to come in just to scout out that brush. Does so quite nicely as hop, skip, and a jump, and in comes Xin Zhao. We got 4 members on the bottom side as Beyond getting closed in on. Vision of Empire was down here as well as, okay. See whether Sun can get any work done now that he's moved on down. The minion wave just being neglected in the mid lane as Ian is going to follow.
Singe doing Singe things in the enemy jungle, of course. Standard.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Standard roams and is able to grow up a CS lead. He's not taking those trades. It's going to be dangerous bot lane.
Abyssal Voyage. Lucifer actually just flashing in.
Good Pilot.
Double knockup with the ultimate from Max, though, as Hybrid once again jumping in. Pilot does get the heal out, but that's a great devour. And that's going to mean the end of the Caitlyn. Finally, Ever8 winners finding a team fight that they actually wanted on the bottom side.
Yeah, we get the roam from mid lane as well. Sun ends up using the ultimate, getting no value from it. Lucifer really wanted the kill because Pilot's flash was on cooldown. They get it. Hybrid doesn't go down. Death's Dance will make some of these plays a little bit cleaner than they currently are, as though he's going to help the bot lane push as Sun re-enters the mid lane.
Yep, keeps throwing that Sith Lightning forward to clear out these little red dots as well. So a couple of more seconds in the Death Chamber for Pilot means a bit more time given to Ever8 on the bottom side as well. Despite the fact that things have looked fantastic for MVP in these isolated fights, the rest of the game has not been going their way at all.
Ever8 are playing to their vision, this triangle in the bottom red side jungle for the Swain to react first. Zoe's nurse will largely around wave clear so she doesn't roam as often. They were in position, it was a nice set play, and if you have 3 control wards, it's very likely that MVP at any point can be collapsed on by an Abyssal Voyage if the Tahm Kench goes out of vision.
Yep, and another Shirelia's Revelry picked up by Wu Fei now on the top side of the map. The singed item of old, I guess.
Not really. I mean, it was never a huge item on him.
It was like a third item a lot of the time.
It was considered for sure, but it's being built here because I think a lot of Singe move away from Catalysts and Rod of Ages especially, and the Abyssal Mask could have been considered, but not going for it at least early in this game. Seems like Banner of Command and the Shirelia's the choice does mean that he has target acquisition very cheap, much cheaper than a Righteous Glory.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that there's no Ryle's Crystal Scepter though, no Archangel Staff to be picked up here. Like, yeah, it's just normally the Ryle's Rush is how Singed is built these days anyway.
Yeah, Ryle's was what? Impact Rush the last time we saw the Singed from him, but again, just like Karma, you have a very situational build on the Singed.
Now Hybrid, he's going to get eaten. They are going to lose this bottom outer turret, but is that all that MVP is going to be able to do here? Because Kuma, he's down. We've got a Swain roaming up as well as Trouble Bubble's going to land, but the old man is feeling absolutely fine. Takes a bit of damage from a Paddle Star, but that's not the dangerous Paddle Stars that we saw back in the early 8.0s.
Wu Fei continues to control the top red side jungle. Feels like Ever8 has full control. The lease on red side is pretty damn big, as we saw a mid lane roam.
Yeah, well, Kuma, he's going to find Ian now as well, as the portal jump was on cooldown, but thankfully does have a lot of options. Oh my goodness, that Void Seeker very, very close to getting Hybrid in range with that killer instinct.
Pushing up in the mid lane, Ever8 trying to make the proactive move after they gave up the bot lane turret. What a damage.
Is super annoying. As he wants the fling but doesn't get it. That means the pop back, the double knockup is successful. Lucifer able to grab Hybrid out of the way though, and that's just an ultimate used to get them away from the turret and clear out the minions.
Deep breath. It was trying to be a counter rotation after bot lane was lost to some degree. They'll back away. Ever8 winners don't have the vision lead they did earlier. They'll just park Sun into a side lane. They'll look for a better moment. We still like Ever8 as the game goes on, but MVP, they got the first turret. They're moving over a 2-item Caitlyn, and they're just trying to make the turret destruction work that every Caitlyn comp is all about.
Yeah, we find the next Zeal item, we find the next option for Pilot to really start going aggressive as well on this Caitlyn, that he is certainly ahead on still. So those couple of assists and a few extra minions, it's going to mean the Caitlyn's feeling great. First turret blood as well, really helping out. So Infinity Edge has already been completed. I believe Hybrid should have the Evolve on the E. Almost done now.
Getting close, 15% on Zeal, just over 10, I believe. It's 25 into 60. I believe it's about 10% short, but I could always be mistaken on there. Very, very close, like you mentioned.
Almost there. So just wants the Hurricane to be completed. 13 CS is going to be the lead for Sun in the mid lane. Been a little bit quiet on the Swain, despite some great stuff in the laning phase. Being able to land the Ws nicely and things like that was certainly good, but otherwise still waiting for his opportune moment to find the team fight that the Swain is looking for. You see Oblivion Orb actually being picked up. We'll see what this is going to turn into.
Drake is kept up. Ian coming out of vision, starting to get value. Almost going to be 2 items completed onto the Zoe. Very strong part of the game for MVP. Really a lot about Ever8 maybe going for more defensive vision, trying to weather the storm, because right now, not much can answer this Caitlyn.
Yeah. Gonna get that siege happening as well. Beyond over to the side, waiting for that Glacial Prison to be opted in for. They'll probably be going for Lucifer as well, as the Trouble Bubble is going to complete. And MVP not even wanting to go for the engage under the turret. They just want to siege this one down and will do so very easily. Nicely done. Well held on to as well for MVP, knowing that they didn't have to go all in.
Very, very strong rolling down a lane, because you look at Ever8, range initiation, not really something this comp is able to do. No Ornn like they had in game number 1. They have to hard commit with the, use something like the Shirelias from Singed or the Abyssal Voyage, and it would have been a one-way trip. So they have to find a better spot. That's what I mentioned when it came to losing the minimum for Ever8. Playing through the 5v5 in a long lane, not something they can do against this Caitlyn and Zoe duo.
Yeah, I think Ever8 really, the onus is on them to keep pushing the tempo of this game as well, because if they're making decisions and MVP's coming to them, that's exactly the fight that they want. Hybrid, he did not want that fight at all, as the Paddle Stars are really starting to hurt from this 2-1-1 Zoe in the mid lane from Ian.
Might have to be Vamp Scepter first if he's on the way to the Death Stance again. Get a bit of lifesteal into the build.
Yeah.
MVP load up for their last turrets takedown. Speaking of takedowns.
Yeah, there's the Demonic Ascension coming in from Sun. He's just trying to sap the health bar of Max and Pilot, and he's still going to be okay. The Never Move. Not going to find what it wants, but there's the Glacial Prison right onto the Tahm Kench. Priority target here for Ever8. But Trouble Bubble's not going to land. That's going to be an unsuccessful gank onto the mid laner, who was on the top side of the map, despite the fact that they did get a flash.
And Kuma looked like he was going to go in at any cost, but decided to pull out, and that meant the only went onto the Tahm Kench, and the disengage had already started the side of Ever8, but still, you ignore all of the action. They are rolling down a lane. They are trying to take that last easy objective for MVP, which represents out a top lane turret.
You see Hybrid, he's just trying to take the Wolf Camp as he heads back towards the mid lane. Death Dance will be the option as item number 3 once again. We've got another Zeal on top of everything from Pilot. MVP fans, now is when you need to start getting excited. This is the moment where the composition is working out. They're ahead by about 3,000 gold. Now we need to not see one of those Baron calls that was a bit of a disaster for MVP in game number 1 that really set Ever8 up for the comeback victory. Because remember, it was a lead for MVP in game number 1 as well as things started off. The laning phase looked good. It was after that first Baron play, that things really stopped working.
You see the bread is button in such different ways. Singed, well, he's creating map pressure alone in the side lane, but Caitlyn and the grouping is working for MVP, and Singed for now not strong enough to actually have any threat, doesn't have turret killing threat himself as a champion. So while there is going to be some map presence elsewhere, MVP keep getting immediate global gold for the team, brute forcing down these turrets. Ever8 are looking for this to be a 60,000 gold game for them. Even if they're behind 4,000, if they have more immediate gold, 3 to 4 items on their Kai'Sa, they'll be happier. But where the game is strong for MVP, they have been able to open up a lead in one significant area, and that's the 3 turret to 0 turret.
Yeah, the outer turrets all moving away, meaning that with a comp like this as well, it makes it really hard to get up to those turrets now that MVP have so much extra control of this map. Because you talk about not having that long-range engage, the long-range options as far, even long-range disengage, not necessarily there. They're going to be looking for Lucifer to be everywhere, saving everyone from these circumstances.
Kuma's been the first one to arrest his natural tendencies a little bit. He has not gone full damage. I saw him go full damage from behind in the Challengers playoffs, but doesn't want to be one-shot by Zoe, so has gone in for a bit of magic resist, recognizing that the snowball did not happen in this particular game.
He wants to grab what looks like a Spirit Visage. That choice. But Wolfei still doing the same thing. Outer turret in the mid lane, very, very low. Ever8 winners an opportunity to try and grab some of that global gold here. an answer back. You mentioned 4,000 gold lead, still exactly that right now as the Baron being considered. Ever8, that's the kind of play that we want to see from these guys. The Baron plays in game number 1 was certainly good.
Sort of play is extending the game in many ways. I believe there are some friends. Nope, just going to be a threat of friends from the side of MVP. If it continues to create pressure, he's opening up a slight CS lead, but really nothing to write home about. Upside the map, MVP invading the blue.
Yep, Beyond should be able to help take that one down. It's going to be Ian that grabs it there from the top side of your screen, and Sun not going to be able to get himself in there. Ever8 sort of dipping out when it comes to vision. MVP being able to capitalize on that one so much better. I feel like that may have been what the coaches were saying between games because we were skeptical on how MVP were playing out the vision game in game 1. This time, very, very different, much better.
Relative strength of the teams will probably never be bigger. I feel like this is the biggest lead item-wise and game time and tempo-wise that MVP will have. The item's not quite there for Ever8. 3 items onto Pilot. They're going to be happy to take a team fight if it started on their own terms. Confident that the items aren't quite there for Ever8 to overwhelm them. And the early game has all been about Swain being irrelevant because they just park up the Caitlyn. Swain can't really react to 650 range sieging. That means they've got no value on their teamfight comp. If they can get a Baron, that'd be sweeter for MVP.
Yeah, it's going down pretty fast. Vision of Empire is so damn good at scouting out the big purple worm.
Where's the turn?
Yeah, half health now to come in as the ultimate is going to be invested from Beyond. ADD gets a couple of knockups, but Hybrid should be okay here as Lucifer should be able to spit him out in the back line of this fight.
Re-engage.
Now so much damage coming in the AoE, and Sun gets the perfect position, still has the flash, but doesn't even worry about it as Hybrid. He picks up the double. ADD now in trouble, gets himself out though, as the Abyssal Voyage will bring Wufei into the back line, but it's Hybrid falling against everything as Ian picks it up.
Ever8 should have taken the early one and stopped. Now there might be exit kills.
Yep, Sleepy Trouble Bubble's not going to land onto Lucifer though. And in the end, an even trade. Oh, that fight was so close.
And you see the power in the comp, even from behind, even without vision. They're able to trade up in many ways. Ends up being even between Ever8 and MVP. They're not able to actually overwhelm a lead. They played around a control-warded brush, and the Zoe was able to kill the Kai'Sa. But if that didn't happen, you see the potential. In a future fight, Sun will be able to sit in the back line and use the Zonias. The grounding will get more value. Lucifer gets the first Devour. Hybrid resets. They can't get to Hybrid anymore. And this looks like a fight that Ever8 going to overwhelm. Great killer instinct usage. He buys his time. This is definitely not a poor time. Has to flash, but that buys enough time for the team to close. However, Zoe does the rest.
Oh, Paddle Star was glorious. Ian gets himself out with his flash as well. The only thing that looked a little bit worrying there for me was that Sun had flash that whole time, and the Demonic Ascension he could have got onto the whole team, be able to really get the lightning in there. Didn't really want to overcommit to that fight by the looks of things, and maybe that Zhonya's is what needed to come in before he commits to a fight.
I think the Zhonya's will be the comfort moment. I think also it was just a lack of teamfight communication, and there was 2 different ideas going on in the fight, and the re-engage call came after Sun disengaged. So something to smooth over for sure, Atlas. I think we both saw the same thing out of the corner of our eyes. First start of the game, finally to Ever8, though, off the back of it.
Yep, it does mean that that gold lead is going to be arrested somewhat. Pilot moves himself into the enemy jungle, though, steals away the red buff, and this Caitlyn is certainly someone that you have to be careful of. Cheeky little pickaxe as well as the Vamp Scepter, not actually wanting to get the QSS by the looks of things towards the Mercurial Scimitar as item number 4. This Caitlyn is something that has to be respected. Death Dance now completed for Hybrid. Will be the 4th item, Infinity Edge by the looks as well, with another pickaxe being picked up. Still needs to sell that door and shield, so BF Sword will be coming down shortly.
Infinity Edge going to be the next rush, we believe, for Hybrid, given that he's already hit his AD cap and has the Rage Blade as the first item. There's a replay, and Kai'Sa damage is starting to go over the top, but Zoe was still able, because of the vision advantage on the side of MVP, to get a lot of value. If you get the Mega Adhesive Goo and you get the Zinja onto her, you're not going to see 4,000 damage out of the Zoe. That wasn't that kind of fight. That wasn't with map control for Ever8. As we're zooming out a little bit and seeing things are a lot more even, as once again, it's just the AD carries, but also this time Ian poking in with the Gathering Storm.
Ooh, scary stuff. The Gathering Storm.
Here's Wufei.
Yeah, he's going to jump forward as well as Vision of Empire just to try and zone them out of the way. It's the double knock-up in the back line there with the call of the Forge God from ADD, but they use it as disengage. Kuma, he's skipping away from this fight. The Demonic Ascension is now just going to time out those Sun. Not a lot of fragments there either in order to get that with some extra damage, so didn't want to overcommit onto anything. Large wave of red dots on the top side and the bottom side for Ever8 to deal with, and MVP once again go back to having control almost everywhere.
Big trade up of cooldowns, getting the Demonic Ascension out. The Ornn ultimate zoned Hybrid away. Now Sun is a lot less threatening. They're going to push through mid lane. Ever8 already showed Singe's bot lane. Caitlyn walks up, the turret dies. Still going to be MVP, getting the objective from that disengage on both sides.
Yeah, and this is the most spry old man I've ever seen. Sun just dodged absolutely everything being thrown at him then, but they still lose the inner turret. Just needed to give the man some attention for what was some pretty good defensive play.
Be a flash advantage onto Hybrid when the next fight breaks out, and that's going to be a window that Ever8 will try to take advantage of. In terms of that particular summoner, things are suddenly a lot less clear. MVP knew they were far ahead a moment ago, but the items are rolling in. The Swain is getting closer and closer to being able to have threat and also zoning power in a team fight. Needs to continue to play the map. Still needs to be a macro game largely from MVP to close out, because we are cresting 32 minutes in the Gathering Storm, becoming a relative thing. And that was not necessarily the biggest power play of MVP. Their macro was, let's say, flippant at times, and their Baron control got better, but was never necessarily their biggest point of power. Let's see if MVP can close out the game, given how much we like Ever8 in the 5v5.
Yeah. Also, remember that MVP, certainly one of the teams that does like to go for the 50-50 Barons whenever they could get them, was certainly their MO for quite some time. 5,000 gold is where that lead has crept back up to after the inner turret fell in the mid lane. Otherwise, not too much to worry about. BF Sword now going to augment the rest of the build for Hybrid. That Infinity Edge desperately wanted.
6 convergence, 4 items, Kate. Pretty damn powerful. So Pilot, he is being preferred to Maha for many reasons, and his consistent performance in situations like this, definitely one of them.
Yep, Knight's Vow being picked up here by Lucifer as well, so a bit of attention being given to the AD carry at the same time.
Oh, just popped by Wufei, looking for the first little flip here.
Yep, trying to bring someone in there, but that means the outer turret falls. Only one more outer remaining, and that's taken a lot of damage just from all of the minions being thrown into it from Wufei.
Finds
just running.
I mean, getting information is useful. He finds the Ornn, knows what angle the Call of the Forge God would come from. Not the longest cooldown, as you can see on that ultimate, because it starts the cooldown when you pop it rather than at the end.
Yeah.
Of the ult.
Well, a minion wave being waited for here by MVP. Actually going to move back towards the Baron.
This is how MVP want to play. Where are we? We don't have vision. We try to hit the trouble bubble. Speaking of hitting trouble bubbles.
Yeah, Flash actually has to be invested in Kuma. There's nothing that he can do to save his Toadfish. He's going to be taken down. Lucifer will have the ultimate to try and get back, but now no Flash to save his teammates.
Doesn't have Unsealed Spellbook to swap to teleport either, so he's out of the fight for well over 30 seconds. Will Ever8 look for the 4v5? There's a 4v5 they win if they pull it off perfectly.
Yep, Sun does still have that Flash available. Hybrid, like you mentioned, has his. Pilot does not. Now Demonic Ascension to come in. The Zhonya's is down as well as Max. Unbreakable has been popped, but Call of the Forge God trying to get the work done, but EDD can't really do it. Wufei off on the backline, just being frustrating, but Sun, is he going to be able to get enough of the health back? I don't think so. Trouble Bubble's going to lock down that kill as Kuma uses the ult, gets people away. But Wufei, what can he do? Mega Adhesive to come in, but that is a very dead Xin. Double kill for Pilot. And Ever8 winners, they're going to have to get the heck away from the Baron. Can they take anything? Because now MVP so much control.
They're going to try and take a turret in the mid lane, but well engineered by MVP. In and out, using their CC to pick up targets. And catch Ian along the way. Baron buff has been surrendered. As Ian comes over.
Yep, Spell Thief's his way into the mid lane. That tower very close to falling, but Great Winner's unable to lock that one down, and Baron now has been claimed.
Not quite able to hurry Ian. He is still the difference in these fights, being able to thread in some nice paddle stars, and the general strength of Pilot is also getting them over the line. Never did we see Kai'Sa use a commitment on the killer instinct because there wasn't the space to, as Tom Kench still dead from the first time. Back away. It's Baron and 3 Drakes. The Elder's already spawned much earlier than game 1, 35 minutes. We have an Elder on the Rift, and that's another place that Ever8 needs to walk up and contest.
Yep, they're looking for the vision now as well. No Swain is going to be in this fight until he does invest that teleport, though, as Elder Drake is being quite
frustrating. They have to give it up, I think.
Yeah, well, Pilot's going to come down. A lot of DPS, and yeah, they've just left.
Consider the quotient if you're Ever8 of getting there. You're like, well, we have no vision anywhere, and they have an utterly fed Zoe. We will die if we walk up. The CC is back available in the Glacial Prison on Beyond. So if they walked up to the Elder, it probably would have been a mistake macro-wise. They have to give it up. It's not the second Elder Dragon, but if there is to be one, it's going to spawn early Atlas. And fortunately for Ever8, will they ever actually have the go button to start a fight? Because so far, MVP have closed out this game pretty routinely.
Well, if there's a way to make the enemy team come to you, it's make them extremely strong and have to win the game, as this tower is not long for the world. Baroned up, bannered up minion, doing so much work onto this inhibitor, but most of it, I believe, is coming from Pilot and Ian's damage, because the structural integrity of these towers is not looking super high. MVP now just continuing on. These Nexus turrets are going to suffer the same fate unless Ever8 can do anything, and by Kuma's standards, it looks like no is going to the option. That's one paddle star for half the health bar, and MVP are still going.
Trying to get this to be a naked Nexus. It might happen, but at some point, Ever8 need to try.
Yeah, Lucifer getting it stunned up. That Catfish is now soup next to his Nexus. The last Nexus turret is going to fall down. MVP looking to try and take down game number 2 and keep their hopes alive in this promotion tournament. They're picking up kills, but they don't need to. They just need to kill the Nexus and move us to a game number 3, a deciding match. And the MVP fans in the audience breathe a huge sigh of relief.
Well, closed out by MVP. They wielded the Zoe Caitlyn comp super well, and the first pick, Swain, was trivialized the entire game by the strategy of roll into a long lane, siege with the Caitlyn, and Swain couldn't hard commit. The team wasn't really there in terms of being able to start a fight, and that meant that he couldn't wave clear, he couldn't hard commit, he was useless, and MVP make it a best of 1 to decide who will go on and play in the best of 5s in 2 days' time, and who sadly will have to sit around for that potential relegation match, the losers match, that will be played after both of our series.
Yeah, sit around nervously watching to see who their opponent is going to be out of Griffin and Kongdu Monster. Ever8 winners still not too worried at how that one went. Still another opportunity to get themselves back into this series, take down MVP.
Well, the power of the Swain was the thing there, and we'll see what the solution is, because if it is going to be Game 3 MVP choosing, maybe they stick on red side. Once again, give blue side over to the side of Ever8 winners. Interesting second game. Very well closed by MVP, who have definitely been unreliable in that, and that means that Game 3 comes after the break.